I'm joined by Stefan Colakovski, who plays for Melbourne City in the A League and is a bit of a cult icon of the A League already. Thanks for joining me, Stefan.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
So, where did your love for football first start?
Um, I guess my dad is mad about football. So since I was a baby, I always had a ball at my feet. And yeah, well, I know it sounds kind of cliche, but I loved the game since I could walk, I was kicking a ball. So, and a lot of my childhood was revolved around football. So I'd probably say my dad is the biggest influence on my love for the game.
Speaking of childhood football, we have often seen this photo of you as a Melbourne Heart fan, often shown in the A League pretty much constantly. So, what were some of your favourite memories of Melbourne Heart, and what are your favourite players of Melbourne Heart?
I love like looking back all the memories of going to the games in summer on a hot summer's day with my cousins, and parents and brothers. I have very fond memories. Getting a hot dog and a coke from the canteen and watching the boys. So look, the derbies were always my favorite. Obviously, even now as a player, like nothing beats a derby. But going to the big games, going to those derbies and watching the boys, nothing beats it. And favorite player, I really liked Rutger Worm. If I don't know if you remember him back, the Dutch guy. Um, so I'd probably say he was one of my favorites, way back then. And Alex Terra was a gun too.
Some pretty good choices.
Yeah.
So you spent most of your youth career with Pascoe Vale before moving to Melbourne City. What was the
Yeah.
transition like from pretty much, amateur football to a more professional setting like for you?
Well, I was at Pascoe obviously before Melbourne City, but I had 2 years in the Victorian state team when I was 13 and 14. So not that that's professional football, but obviously in the state teams, it is more professional than local clubs like Pascoe Vale or any local club. So I had, I guess, kind of a taste of like that professionalism and looking after myself as a kid. And then obviously when I was 15, I was selected for the Victorian NTC team, but the coach wanted to play me left back. So I pretty much had a chat with my dad. I said, look, I know this is a big risk, but I don't want to spend the whole year um, playing as a left back. I guess now we paid off because I'm at City in the first team, but back then it was a big risk. So I went back to Pascoe Vale and then joined Melbourne City, as a 15-year-old. And at the start, it was a bit of a shock. Obviously, like I said, I had that taste in the state team, but going from Paco, where I never did any running or any, I was just a lazy local player, to City where the standards are probably the best in the country. So it was a big jump, but I think I've been there for long enough now, so I'm kind of used to it.
And the City Youth setup has produced some incredible players. I could be here for about an hour listing them all.
Yeah.
Arzani, Jean Rowe, Metcalf, Pieris, Kolakowski. Um, what is it about the City Youth setup that you reckon gets the best out of these young players?
I think the professionalism of the club. From when we step into the club, we have you know, there's a we look up and we can see what the A League team want to achieve, and I guess the connection with Manchester City. It's everything is done to the highest standard, whether that be training sessions, the recovery, physios, staff. Everything is to such a high standard. So I think that's where us as players can really develop. And some of those players you've named, quite a few of them were just in the Olympic squad. So for Australia, so you could see, you can see how successful it has been over the last 3 or 4 years, and I've played with a lot of those boys, so it's good to see all of us kind of in our own directions, kind of trying to make it and making it as professional footballers.
And personally for you, what do you think the most important thing you learned during your time with the youth setup at City was?
Probably resilience. I mean, I use that word a lot, but I guess for me, I've had a lot of ups and downs. So, last game of the NPL season in 2017, I tore my ACL, which ruled me out for, 14, 15 months almost. So for me, that was a massive learning process for me, because I'd never had a significant injury, and now I'm out for 15 months at such a critical age in anyone's career. 17, 18 is where players really, you kind of make it or not. So I guess for me, I learned, well, you know what, I'm injured now. I can either just give up and feel sorry for myself, or do the rehab and have a chance to try and work on my body and come back and give it a crack. I mean, and I'm thankful for the club, for giving me the opportunity and actually, having rehab there. So yeah, I'd probably say just learning to come back from negatives, even little negatives like missing out on a game, not being selected in a squad, or not coming off the bench, or whatever it may be. I mean, you got to bounce back. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned.
And speaking of opportunities, what was it like for you? Like, what was that moment like when you finally made your debut for City's first team?
Yeah, probably the proudest, or one of the proudest moments of my career thus far, because for my family and my parents, who have supported me since I was 4 years old. And I always said, as a kid, I'm going to be a professional footballer, and it's easy. Every kid, or a lot of kids, dream of that. And in your teenage years, you start thinking, shit, like it's not as easy as just saying, oh yeah, I'm going to be a professional footballer. So for me, it was like, not, I don't want to say like, oh, I've made it, because I hadn't. But more like, okay, this is it. Like, I've had my chance now. Now I can really run with it. So having my family in the crowd and just stepping on the pitch, especially for Melbourne City, who I joined, as a youth player and supported as a kid, was unbelievable.
And how do you think personally you went in that first match that you played?
I think I did all right. I reckon I could have scored. I mean, I don't want to look back. I haven't looked back on any highlights from that game, because I remember I was through on goal and I took my touch too wide and my shot wasn't good enough. But I remember as soon as I stepped off the pitch at the final whistle, I didn't really think too much about how I played. I was just rapt to be on the pitch, to be honest. So it was a crazy moment, I should say, because like I said, it was a big kind of weight off my shoulders.
You just talked about having sort of that moment where you think to yourself, you've made it. Have you had that moment yet in your career? If so, what was that moment?
Um, I never like to say, especially as a young player, like, oh, I've made it, because you always want to, you know, reach for bigger goals and achieve bigger things. But I guess, playing my part in the final series for City and being able to win 2 trophies, not that I've made it, but that's a real taste of professional football. And because I got to play a part in that, it was, I guess you could kind of say, all right, well, I'm here now. I really want to build on this and have a really successful career.
And speaking of those big matches, you've played in 2 grand finals. How do you mentally prepare for those sort of matches? Do you have any pre-match rituals or routines or stuff like that that you do, superstitions?
Um, Not really. I mean, in terms of like big games or small games, it's, for me, it's kind of the same. I mean, I go into it pretty relaxed. I've done this my whole life. I've played football my whole life. So if I block out any of the noise and all that, I mean, and just focus on what's going on in the pitch, then I'll be fine. So, and I wouldn't say really any superstitions or anything, just kind of playing games on my phone and during the day and listen to music. I like to chill out quite a bit.
Do you have like a specific pump up song or anything like that?
Nothing in particular. I mean, maybe sometimes I'll play a bit of 50 Cent if I'm feeling gangster, but nothing, that G's me up, but nothing. I change it up every game.
And of course, pre-season's in full swing now for Melbourne City. Got a couple of big new announcements. Matt Leckie's playing with you guys. So what's it like working with someone like Leckie? I know you got McLaren in the boot already. And what's pre-season been like for you so far?
Yeah, look, well, firstly, preseason has been very hard. I mean, I missed out on preseason last season because of an injury, so I was out for almost 10 weeks with a little niggle. And so I guess this is my first real preseason since in a professional environment. And it's been, with PK and some of the, performance staff, it's been really hard running and all that. But you know what? It's good because we've tasted the glory and we want to taste it again. I mean, nothing beats those celebrations at the end of a season. So the hard work is worth it. And talking about Lecky, I mean, I've said it all last year and the last 2 years. Working with McLaren and Naboo is unbelievable. These guys have played in World Cups. They've played at very high levels and for quite a long time now. So getting to learn off them is unreal. And now you got the Socceroos captain Lecky in there. I mean, it's going to be, obviously for me as an attacker, it's going to be tough to try and get game time. But look, I mean, I want to learn as much as I can from them, but at the same time, I'm there to, I want to take their position, so I think it's a good mix and they're very good mentors as well to us younger lads. So I can't complain.
And personally, what are your goals for the rest of 2021?
For just 2021, score as many goals as I can and play as many minutes as I can. I mean, last season, obviously, because we have such a stacked front three and because of my preseason niggles, I didn't really get a very good run of game time until the final series. So hopefully this season I can show, what I can do in training and get more game time and score goals. And I mean, not just for 2021, but I want to win trophies again this season with City and go back to back. I think we all want that. We're not afraid to say that we want that. So yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining me today. It's been an awesome chat.
No worries. Thanks for having me.